Welcome to Grow As We Grow. I think we're on episode 13. This is a perk membership series where members send in video clips of their gardens, or they send in video questions, and I do a quick tour of my garden. The videos that you're going to see today are coming in from the month of March. So I've been pretty busy. I've moved out of my greenhouse. All of my perennial herbs and flowers are in 2.5-inch pots. Hopefully I'm going to be selling these in some capacity or giving them away. But they don't need to be in a greenhouse anymore. My part of the video is actually being shot in April. So it's really warming up. They don't need the warmth of the greenhouse, so everything is coming out here. And just remember, just because your plants are growing in a greenhouse, it doesn't mean they don't need to be acclimated to the sun. There's some UV protection on my polycarbonate, so it limits the intensity of the UV rays going in there. So the plants in there are stronger, they are more used to the sun, but I like to give them about 3 days in a shadier area, get some sun, and then they're going to be moved elsewhere. But all the perennial flowers and herbs are out. What I've moved into here are my warmer crops. Some of these are still, cool weather crops, but all of my peppers are out. Tomatoes are out. These tomatoes are tiny Tims. They're all beat up, but these are going to go out into the ground. They're just beat up because I wasn't really taking care of them in the house. But they are strong enough to start producing tomatoes really early here, so I'm very excited about that. Let's spin around and get into my main garden. I want to show you a clip of Gail's garden. She's starting off dealing with a big problem, which you'll see. Her greenhouse looks beautiful. But again, what's cool about this series is we're all doing different things at different times in our garden because of snow, because of temperature, because of just where we live. So here's a clip of what she's dealing with, and she's really upgraded her greenhouse in a cool way using shelving that's adjustable.
As you can see, we got a lot of snow. The dogs are loving it. Lee's gonna try to get the driveway clean so at least we can get out. So, off to the greenhouse. Hey there, it's Gail with Two Gals Farm Works here in Vermont. We have a lot of snow, and we have another 12 inches coming tonight and tomorrow, which is really nice for spring, isn't it? So I'm in the greenhouse working today, and we've made some upgrades and changes to make our workflow better and to be able to store all of our seedlings. So I'd like to take you on a short tour of what we've done and what everything looks like so far. So in the center of the greenhouse we have these earth boxes, and right now there's some lettuce and carrots started in there. There's going to be some other plants. That's Lee's project to put over in there. I think she's going to put her peas in the purple box there. And but they're working really well. We've had a little fungus gnats here and there, but we have the stickies out, so taking care of that. Our plants that we brought in from the yard in the winter are doing really well. I've got the rosemary, saved some poinsettias, Christmas ivy, we have some cut and come again lettuce, more rosemary, some thyme and marjoram, and some more rosemary down at the bottom, and they all seem to be liking it pretty well. So that was a good plan. So on this wall here, which is actually east facing, what we did is we put up some adjustable shelves all the way down so that we can put these metal shelves anywhere and adjust them wherever we wanted them. And they're working out really well. Have one up at top right now for storage and extra flats. The onions are coming up pretty well. I've transpotted them to bigger pots. Have some marigolds, just a couple from the first batch, more onions and leeks. My rosemary is doing really well. This is the first time I've been able to grow rosemary, and they're doing pretty well. Over here we have sage, Biden's little flowers, some Johnny jump ups, some more herbs. I think that's thyme, arugula, Some broccoli back there. More little flowers started. I used one of the earth boxes for cut and come again lettuce, and that's just about ready to start picking on. So the earth box did really well for that. They're self-watering boxes. They work really well. Here's my rogue tomato plant. It just came up in one of the earth boxes. And so I'm trying to save it and keep it tied up. It's starting to throw out some flowers here at the top. I don't know if you can see it. There's some flowers up there at the top. So that'll be kind of fun. It's just an experiment. On the back rack, we have some cabbage, Napa cabbage, collards. They'll be ready to go in the garden here when we get rid of the snow. Some Copenhagen cabbage, more onions, and this is the echinacea coming up. Down here we have some broccoli. Some of this will be going to the farmer's market. And as an experiment, we're doing some cantaloupe. We'll grow that here in the greenhouse. Green stalks are doing really well. I replanted the green stalk with, we have romaine, cabbage, red romaine, some arugula down here, and spinach at the bottom. But everything, these have been in for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they've been doing really well. It looks pretty to have nice green stuff in the greenhouse over the winter. The other green stalk is all planted up with red romaine. This is baby red romaine, regular red romaine, some bok choy, radishes, arugula, and I think this is cabbage down here. And they're all doing really well too. So the green stalk was a great idea to put in the greenhouse as we move along. So they all look really pretty. We moved both of the benches over to this one side to be the workspace. We have one shelf up above that has all the supplies on it now, but this is where we do our potting up and seeding, etc. Have a lot of seedlings over here, beets, golden beets, red beets, some radishes, regular celery, oregano, basil, Chinese pink celery, some other basil. They haven't come up yet. They probably won't. I'll have to replant those. Some dill and some more bok choy. So we've been enjoying using the greenhouse and trying to figure out how to work things better for workflow, and also have lots of space for seed trays, which I think that'll work out really well. Brought our tunes out here, so we're ready to go. I would like to mention that it's 17 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and inside the greenhouse it is 74 Fahrenheit. It's sunny today, so it doesn't take long, and the fans come on, and it gets toasty in here. So it's nice to be out here when it's so snowy. So I hope everyone's doing well and have a good growing day. This is Gail again from Two Gals, and we'll see you next time.
I think I'm going to say it every time. I love your greenhouse. We're also going to talk about trellising. Maybe that's what I'll add to today's Grow as We Grow. Radishes are doing really well. 5 rows in there, looking good. All my strawberries are coming up. And again, I'm in the process of getting my warmer weather crops outside. I'm using a sunken cold frame right down here, and the peppers look really good. I have a tomato in there. This is just a great way to get plants to size. You go down about 12 inches. You have your cold frame on the top, stays warm. We've been getting frosts here still, even though we're, into almost the middle of April. We still get nights, 32 degrees or less at times, and I have to protect the plants. I can't put out any of my warm weather crops right now because the soil is too cold. A lot of people worry about last frost. which is important, but it's also about soil temperature. There's no point in rushing out a pepper or tomato plant, sticking it into cold ground, and it just sits there for 4 weeks or 5 weeks. Yeah, I can protect it with plastic and stuff, but it's just not going to grow. So you don't need to rush anything out. Cattle panel is one of my favorite materials to use for trellising. Right now, these are blackberries that worked their way over or got seeded, you know, from bird droppings or whatever. I grow tomatoes up here predominantly, make a nice tunnel of cherry tomatoes. My garden is just starting to come to life. I'm excited about it. I left the hose out, which is cool because our gardens should not look like HGTV. It's cool if they do, but they should look like a person who's working and trying to have a garden around their busy schedule. I like trellising. I like the design to really raise things up, save some space, but I really like how the architecture looks in the garden. Let's take a look at Nikki's garden. I want to give her credit for really creating a very large leaf compost pile, which I highly recommend everybody does, because in a year she's gonna have the most amazing leaf compost for her garden.
Okay, so welcome to Nikki's Garden in Eden. So I'm going to start today with the trees that were stored in my greenhouse. Here they are. So you can see some of the trees are starting to bloom. They're growing leaves. I've been, if you remember, during the beginning of the winter, I had the garbage pails full of water to use to heat this room, this greenhouse. So now I'm beginning to use the water so that I can remove the garbage. And please excuse my yard because you're going to see quite a mess. Things that I started doing was I started air gardening during the winter. I grew okra and Brussels sprouts during the winter, and I've actually had the opportunity to eat Brussels sprouts okra that I've grown during the winter. I did an experiment with growing brassicas. These brassicas were all covered with plastic in these mini hoop houses during the winter, and you can see the ones that survived. There were quite a few that did not survive, but overall they survived. I would say there's some over there too. The cauliflowers and the broccolis were the ones that really didn't survive, but the kales, the collards, they did pretty well. Here's my garlic. Okay. Some things that I've been doing, I had created, I think I didn't show you this during the winter, my leaf mulch. I decided to use Gary's idea and I created a bigger area. So I gathered up some leaves from the neighborhood, shredded paper, I threw vegetables, scraps in there, and yeah, this is what I have. Oh, question while I'm here. So these are scallions that I have been growing, and I basically just kept them around. I never used them. I just kept them because I figured it would keep bugs away, different things away. I was wondering what these balls were. Someone said that it was full of spiders. Just curious if you know. I didn't want to open them to find out. Okay. And then, excuse my puppies there, running around having a good time. That's how they play. Okay. Here's my horseradishes. They're starting up. They've been laying dormant during the winter. And these are Brussels sprouts. No, these failed horribly. I grew these in the arrow garden, but I went on vacation and I tried to bring them outside quickly without acclimating them. And that's what I got. Okay, otherwise I'm still cleaning up, getting ready. Like Gary said, taking one day at a time. I have all these pools that I brought on clearance during the winter, and I'm planning to get growing. Good luck to us all. Take care.
Nikki, I really think you're maximizing the space that you have, and I think you're going to have a great year. To answer your question, those are not spiders. Those are alliums, and alliums produce flowers, and that's what you see. That's going to be a flower. Once it flowers, it forms, it's going to produce seed. You can collect the seed and you can plant that, and you'll get your bunching onions or your spring onions seeds that you can put anywhere, you know, in your garden. My broccoli is in. I'm also using cattle panel here for trellising. You can see the old beans, but I'll be putting shade cloth over this because unlike tomatoes and peppers that love warm soil, if the soil gets too hot, your broccoli, your cauliflower, your brassicas get that message to flower. So you lose that beautiful crown of broccoli, that head, I guess we'll call it, of cauliflower, and it wants to produce flowers and seeds. So you want to cool the soil down as it starts getting warmer for your cool weather crops. Different places, different trellises. I have lots of videos on it, but I just wanted to, you know, kind of have you think about these different designs because, again, not only can you grow more going upward, if you like the design, I love just seeing the greenery. Like this garden is going to be packed with green growth up high come the end of June. Let's take a look at Brent's garden. His space is really about container gardening, and he found a bag of fertilizer that's only 13 bucks. He'll be talking about that. But in most places, and I think, Brent, you're in Colorado, most places you can find cheaper organic granular fertilizer, and I think he found his in the lawn section of wherever he was shopping. Or if you didn't, I recommend people go to other areas of the big box stores, like where lawn and grass seed stuff is sold. Sometimes you find fertilizer much cheaper than if you go over to the garden area where the vegetables are. Just, you know, 50 feet can make a difference in 20 bucks.
Hi everyone, it's Brent. Just because I have a lot to cover in my video, I wanted to just jump in without an introduction. So this is probably my biggest feature that I wanted to talk about. Gary, I know you have a video on something similar to this. Maybe it's the exact same brand. I cannot find it. But this is a 532 organic fertilizer, and it's labeled for lawn usage, which is very interesting to me. It's a 532, and just like a lot of your videos, the main ingredient is dried poultry manure. It's 40 pounds. This 40-pound bag is $13. Even with inflation last year and all that stuff going around, $13 for a 40-pound bag of fertilizer. If you can't do compost, I live by this. I haven't used any other type of vegetable fertilizer since I found this out. So thank you. I've got herbs hardening off. They look really good. A few extra strawberries as well. So this is a pretty healthy looking lot right here. I'm taking advantage of the rain here, and this will eventually turn to snow coming around. So we're supposed to get up to 2 feet. And so all these items that are getting started, some broccoli, some strawberries, I'm just gonna head on bringing it indoors. So just kind of wheel it in the garage here. There's some overwintered peppers that actually made it. That one back there, probably not so much, but the ones here did pretty well. A couple of Anaheims, which I really, really like. So we're gonna get those obviously indoors because it's gonna start snowing. This is the next day. We've got already at least 12 inches of snow, more falling, and we're expected to get quite a bit more. You can actually see the snow totals actually hitting on top of my containers, so that's definitely a good foot of accumulation right there. An update on my jicama production here. This was started 2/17, and I expected them to grow and germinate a lot faster than it is here. The seed packet says 5 to 7 days germination. I kind of call a little bit of garbage on that. I don't know if my pre-soaking didn't work as well as I thought, but not a great germination rate, and they grow kind of slow, but they're starting to kind of take off here with the new growth. I do keep this regularly 75 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. My peppers, the fastest popping peppers I've ever had, just with this temperature. So pretty happy with it. We'll see how the jicama goes this year. Some of the garlics that I got a head start through the winter, and they overwintered and are coming back great. So these will be excellent spring garlics for harvest. And I already have some broccolis in containers that I can bring in and out. They have that. They can have a nice flexible sort of material that you can cover, sort of like chicken wire, to help prevent the rabbit problem that we have here. I wanted to show this method that I've done for the last couple of years, and that is taking some of your tomato transplants. You grow them way early. A lot of you know I'm in Colorado Zone 5, so this is way too early. These were sown on February the 10th, but I'm going to show you a little bit how I pot these up, and my whole goal is just to get a solid root system, plant them really deep. Not so worried about the green growth. If some of it gets a little beat up and crazy, I'm not so much worried about that. I just want really strong giant root systems. This is the finished product. I pretty much planted it at the full depth of this container all the way down here. The benefit is all of that additional extra leggy stem growth is just going to root out, and that's what I want. I'm not as concerned at the full health of the greenery tops, because realistically when it gets warm enough, I'm just going to throw this all into the ground or a larger container, and it's going to have such a great root system that the greenery will catch up really fast.
Brent, your seed starts look really healthy too. And I know a lot of us are moving into that time of the year when we're getting excited. Spring is rolling out. Hopefully the snow is gone for both of you. It's time to start getting the cool weather crops out. And, you know, in some cases, I know people are like in Texas, things are kind of flipped around. You know, maybe the cool season is going to be going away soon, but check out the Grow As We Grow, because you're going to get so many tips from different gardens throughout the United States. Many of the members have YouTube channels, and you can follow them and kind of match what they're doing if you're, you know, where they live. Some people are in Vermont, some people are in Virginia, some people are in Colorado, and just follow along as they're growing. It'll give you some ideas of what you should be doing out in your garden. So I've got my container garden set up. Lots of garlic coming in, peas are coming up. Let me just show you the peas. These were put in on April 4th, just to give you an idea. Today is about the 11th, I think, of April. So this is 4 or 5 weeks of growth. They're looking good. It's beginning to warm up. One tip I just have is I've watered again. Just because it's cooler doesn't mean your plants don't need to be watered. They don't need to be watered as much. But the more water they get, beyond drowning, I find they tend to thrive and do better. Sometimes we water just a little bit too less. We're too worried about drowning the plants. It's really hard to harm a plant in a container that drains. And it's really hard to harm a plant that's in the ground that has, you know, a decent root system. And at 4 weeks, these have a great root system. The water helps the plants pull in the nutrients. So water a little bit more than you think, and you might have a garden that thrives just a little bit more. Let's take a look at Rebecca's garden. She's going to show you, and I might as well spin over to that area. This is where I'm growing my potatoes. She discovered a sack of potatoes that started to chit out and grow, so she decided to do an experimental bed and get them planted, and she's got a lot of great ideas in there. One thing that's going to happen is, because you put down the wood chips, a lot of the blood meal, that's going to heat up. It's going to warm up that whole area, so you're probably going to get really fast growth from the potatoes. And if timing works out, you know, everything will adjust and you'll have a great crop of potatoes. But I don't know if you're going to keep that bed there or not, but with everything you put in there, that's going to be great stuff to kind of compost and move all over the rest of your garden. So I hope it works, but check out how she did that.
Over the winter, I was storing my potatoes in this nylon sack for a couple of months this winter, and I came back to this. These potatoes are just sprouting, and so I thought, well, why not try to plant them? So I'm going to create an experimental bed. I'm going to be building this bed right behind me, right on the grass. I'm going to weed whack down the grass as far as I can, and then I am going to put a load of wood chips there, and I'm going to add into that wood chip pile, sprinkle it liberally with blood meal, which is all nitrogen. So hopefully that will really get composting happening. And then I'm going to water in those wood chips with fish fertilizer, fish emulsion. Then I'm going to put on top of this is age-old topsoil. The whole thing off with some hay. And we'll plant the potatoes in all of that and see if they grow. Next, chips. Pretty good. This is blood meal. I'll be raking this in. Probably the coyotes will be coming around tonight to see what they can find. Next, we're going to water this in with fish emulsion. But nice and wet. The wetter, the better. I'm going to put a little hay just underneath as well. This is already rotting down, so that'll be a nice pre-composting. Next comes the ancient soil. This stuff is so friggin' heavy. I have no earthly idea how long this soil has been there and if it has any life in it at all. But I'm gonna put some compost down too. So hopefully that can help bring some activation into this. Now I'm going to put some compost down. Here's a compost layer. Let's get those potatoes. Put them down in. Yeah. Ah! Look at this. That's crazy. Totally crazy. Will it grow? I don't know. Fertilizer on this. Some hay. So there you have it. That took me about 45 minutes total to do, including going down and getting the hay and getting all the things together. So it's a relatively quick build. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
This is my garden. It's outside of my main garden with a fence that keeps the deer and rabbit out. I use just basic barriers like this. That sometimes keeps the deer from walking in. I'm also planting crops that they tend not to like on the outside here are all onions. This chicken wire works 100% to keep rabbits out. They don't want to skid under there. The deer don't want to work through it. If you get something aggressive like raccoons or even groundhogs, they will knock stuff over because they're just a little more fierce. I have potatoes in here, potatoes over here, and they are starting to come up. It's kind of cool. When you start seeing these little breaks, that means the potato is starting to push its way up. So my first wave of potatoes are in. I'm going to be growing potatoes or planting potatoes probably 3 times this year. I'll plant them again in June, plant them again in August. The potatoes under this bag, I'm protecting them from the sun, were all dug up and they overwintered. I could actually eat those, but I'm going to be putting in those red Norlands or red Pontiacs somewhere else in the garden. Let's finish up with just walking over to the compost pile. And this is my, regular pitch to encourage people to get composting. And I think if you look at what Nikki did, she's collecting leaves and all kinds of stuff from the neighborhood, from her property, food scraps, and just putting them in there. She's going to have wonderful stuff. So I've got my compost back up to speed, just started cutting the lawn, and you can see the yellowing right in here. So I'm doing a layer of leaves that I had, grass, etc., and it's starting to turn brown. That core is heating up a whole lot. Now I'm not doing hot composting. I set it up so it gets hot. It's going to cool down. I'm just going to leave it here, not do a lot of work. But the combination of leaves and greens really heats up and helps speed up the process, and then it'll cool down and it'll just go at its normal pace. The point is that you don't have to overthink it. Just get the materials out there. If you put in too much grass, yeah, it's going to smell. What do? You get a fork, Stick it in there, fluff it up, get some air in there, and it's going to be great. The other thing that I wanted to point out before we go is that you can, now this tarp should be spread out somewhere where you don't need to worry about it killing the lawn. And then just put your grass down. Fluff it over in the full sun. It's going to dry. You know, this is almost there. And then you can use this really quickly as a mulch. And because it's totally dried, you don't have to worry about putting new grass down, putting too much, it getting slimy, smelly, overheating. Once it's dried, I mean, you can put down like 3, 4, 5 inches on your beds and use it as mulch. Thanks so much for watching. Please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com. And please check out the video description. You can see that the different members' social media links are in there, and please follow them and check out where they are, because maybe you can follow them along, same stage that you're in, and kind of get some tips for growing in your area. Thanks so much for watching.